It's the same issue, right? Like I always tell my clients, if you're looking to lose weight, if that's your goal, I may not be the person for you because consistency will help you lean out, but you have to be patient. It's not something like, even 20s and 30s, right? We knew how to fit into that dress in 2 weeks. We would maybe stop eating any sort of bread and pasta and rice, right? And like work out a ton. So how can you measure success? Well, how I measure success, if you're someone who's just starting out, or Yenvi, if you're just kind of getting back on track and creating your plan, I recommend you track your progress, right? So if you're doing strength training, right? What are the weights? What are the weights that you're using? What are the sets and reps that you're doing? How many push-ups can you do? How fast can you complete a mile at our age right now, right? You need a baseline. So you have a baseline, whatever that baseline is, that's not a number on the scale. You could be what size of pants are you wearing, right? What size of shirt are you wearing or what have you. And then every month, recheck those. So how many push-ups can you do in a month? What's the weights that you're using in the gym or at home? Right? And then you'll see the progress is small, but you got to celebrate those little wins, right? Or maybe it's, you're on the cardio machine and there's a lot of different exercises you can do. Like if you're a Peloton user, right? You can be racing people. You can check your heart rate. There's so many other measurements other than the scale, but I get it and I understand and I hear you and I've been there. Also our bodies change depending on our cycle, if we're still having our period, um, our age. I remember someone used to tell me, well, every 10 years after the age of 50, we put on 5 pounds. Like, you know,
Yeah.
um, and that I think that's hard. That's hard for women, but you have to find your best within the season you're in. And
Right.
what you have to define that best, right? So, again, I would track progress, and I personally track progress. I'm an avid marathoner. I've run a million Boston. I'm trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon, and I thought because the time would be slower, it would be easier. But I'm older. It's actually hard. It's really hard, right? Like, and some days I feel like $1 million, and other days I don't feel strong and fit and fast like I used to be. So I think it's just checking in every 2 weeks, kind of with all those questions that I had, like, are you in a better mood? There's just so much, you're so much more than a number on the scale.
Exactly, exactly. And with the the idea of building muscle as well. And muscle is heavier
Oh,
than,
much heavier.
than fat. And so there's that period where if we're building muscle for strength, right? And we step on a scale, we think that what we're doing is not working either,
Right.
right? But it is working. And if we look at um the fact that it's working and you're building strength, like what are some of the ways that you can challenge yourself or ways that you can measure yourself and say, okay, I'm getting stronger. I can feel it. Like what, is it like doing 10 push-ups and then now I can do 15? Or, what are the different ways that, you can feel stronger, but then I can tell myself I feel stronger as well, right? I can trick myself to say, I feel stronger, right?
Yeah.
Or like what are some of the ways for me to measure that my own strength? And what do you recommend in regards to ways I can measure my own strength and know that what I'm doing, I'm getting stronger, I'm building muscle, it's working.
Yeah. So you could test yourself, right? So
Right.
just like I said before, it's you're tracking every month and you're writing it down. So like what are the weights you're using? You started with 10 and now you're bicep curling with 15 and now you're bicep curling with 20 and now you've gone to the gym and you're going to the bar,
Yeah.
right? Maybe like 30, 40 pounds. I mean, that's really the only way. Or again, you could do push-ups, right? You start with 10 and then can you do 15 in 2 weeks? Can you do 20
Right.
in 4 weeks? It's more and also you'll know because this is something that I do. You recover faster, right? So if all of us were standing at the bottom of the stairs and we had to climb 10 flights of stairs, all of us would be out of breath. But if I was more fit, maybe than you, I'd recover way faster. So sometimes I'll measure my fitness based on my recovery because everything's hard. And as you become stronger, you add more and it's hard, right? So it's hard to measure. It's like, why did this work out so hard? But it's because we added more load to your
Right,
work or a longer duration or more sets or more reps.
right,
Uh, and then, sometimes we rely on some other affirmation of like, oh, do you ever feel strong, right? Or you look strong, or sometimes those affirmations feel great. Or I also would recommend, so if you're like, I'm gonna see if how I feel, do the first workout you did when you first started. And it'll feel so much easier, right? And you'll be like, oh wow, I'm actually getting stronger. It's
yeah,
hard. It's hard. It's hard for those like it's just kind of like those invisible labors that we're doing all day as women. There's kind of these invisible wins and measuring, right? Like we're so conditioned for a number on the scale or a certain size or how we like look immediately. So it's hard to have those little wins, but they're important because they keep us going. And
right,
what keeps me going is I've really changed my mindset of I want to live a long time. And I want to feel strong and I don't want to feel frail. I look at you know, older people or older other generations. And it's scary because if you fall, it's hard. It's hard. So it's kind of shifting your mindset too of how you define success.
right.
Uh, And so I guess in short, it's the recovery, right? You'll feel it. You'll feel that you can feel when you're stronger.
Yeah.
And your body almost feels tighter, right? So right? Like get in those like loose shorts and loose t-shirt and jog and you'll feel kind of tighter, right? It's just taking that step of the initial your body's changing and maybe you carry fat differently, right? Or the areas you c- I mean, we can tell.
One of the Olympic athletes, the gymnast, said that when she finally trained appropriately with a master coach for the Olympics, she had gained like 15 pounds of muscle mass. So she ended up being, 5 feet tall or 4'11" or something like that, but 140 pounds of muscle. I mean,
Yeah.
like 140 pounds, right? And so and she has like a six pack and she's an Olympian, you know what I mean? That just goes to show how heavy muscle can be, right?
Mhm.
Regardless of your height and your where you are. And I think that's where, we want to get away from the scale, especially as we get older too. Because when we're younger, that's all we hear about, right? And that's
Mhm.
all we can
Yep.
understand. But now we're wiser. And so if I ask, regarding supplements, for example, right? When
Mhm.
I was training, my trainer, when I was training for my competition, for the stage. My trainer had me on all types of supplements, right? And then he's like,
Yeah.
this is gonna do this, and this is gonna do a lot of hacking stuff, right? But one of the key things he had me on was like creatine, right? I had creatine before and creatine after before my workout, and I totally felt a difference with the creatine in my system when I was working out. I felt like the Hulk. I was like, raw, and so like how like is that needed, you think, in order like have creatine before your workout and that kind of gives you like a nice boost to working out so that you have a better workout or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to trying it. I am on my how many months? Like fourth month of trying it. I remember back in the day, creatine. Well, number one, creatine is the supplement that it has the most studies and the longest research on. And a ton of registered dietitians are recommending it. What it basically does, it hydrates your muscles so that you are able to recover and repair. So, I don't maybe recommend it in the beginning if you're someone who's just starting out your exercise plan. But if you're someone that's like, gosh, I've been doing the same thing, and Lauren's telling me I should change it up, and you want to change it up, and maybe elevate, right, your strength and your muscle strength, I would try it for sure.
Helps with recovery.
Definitely. I feel it more in the recovery.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely helps with repair for
Right.
sure.
And there's this number that, if we go to the doctor and a person that's not, an avid exerciser or a person that's just getting into exercising and lifting weights, they'll go to their doctor, and the one measurement that the doctor always measures the BMI, right?
Mhm.
And so could you just kind of like touch on that? Because you can go to your doctor and he's going to give you a BMI and you're going to walk out and you're like, oh, damn.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm
But
obese,
what does
right?
that mean for
I
the person?
know.
How do they think about it? Because it's coming from a physician, right? And so everybody thinks it's right. But what's as a professional in exercise, and wellness, like what does that number really, because it's so standardized to use that number.
It is standardized. It's extremely old school. But it's basically the ratio of your height and weight. So if you happen to be a shorter person, right, like our gymnast,
Yes.
right? And so if you're short, but you have a lot of muscle on you, right, you're going to weigh more. And
Right.
so the thing with BMI, can be directly correlated with cardiovascular disease, right, and obesity. So if you are in that category, back in the day, that's when doctors would make it, a serious issue, right? Of you need to lose weight so that you're not in at risk for cardiovascular disease. But now that's changing. I have a lot of girlfriends and clients who they actually, when their children or teenagers are at the doctor, if one of my friends has three daughters who are all athletes, and they walk out of every doctor appointment being told they are overweight because they're very muscular. So, you can always refuse that. I think it depends on the individual. I wouldn't, if you're someone who is shorter and muscular, I would maybe even ask not to be weighed. In fact, I actually don't get weighed at the doctor. I'm like, no, thanks. I don't, I feel great. I feel great.
Good.
So I really don't I think there needs to be a new way to measure um, obesity or overweight. There are two methods that you all can do if you do go to a gym. I don't think doctors will do it yet, but there is a X-ray. It's called DEXA scan, and that can tell you how much. It not only does your bone density, which is a really great test, but it can also tell you how much of your weight is fat. And that, um, there are charts out there that can tell you what a healthy body fat composition is. I personally, on my clients, if they want, I will do their skin fold measurements with my little pincher on all the areas that, based on studies, women carry most of their body fat. And then we'll test every 46 weeks to see if that's gone down. But yeah, BMI, oh, I don't know. It's 2025.
Yeah.
It's
Wonderful.
like
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
so
Okay,
old.
so in the interest of time, I have one more question, and then we'll go into a question from the audience. So what are your top exercises for building muscle? You mentioned a couple, but like, what are your favorite, like that your go-to muscle?
Yeah.
Go-to exercises.
Okay. So, lower body squats, squats for sure. So, squats with a bar, right? The big rack, or squats with your heavy dumbbells. Um, Romanian deadlift, that's like a deadlift where you're working your hamstring. Those are my two favorite lower body. Why? Because I feel like they work additional muscles outside of just your quads, your glutes, and your hamstrings. They work your core, they work your back, they work your upper body because you're holding it. And then upper body push-ups. I hate push-ups, but they are the best. Push-ups works your core, your shoulders, your chest, your arms, and pull-ups. That old pull-up bar. I've been on a quest to improve my pull-ups. And nowadays they have those really fun bands that take weight off of your body. You can also do pull-ups with a friend or your partner, right? They can just hold your feet and do assisted pull-ups so that you train those muscles to work. And then any sort of core exercise. We always need help with our core, especially those of us who are working on computers hunched over, sitting for long periods of time. Any sort of core exercise would be my go-to. But four, pull-ups, push-ups, squats, and Romanian deadlift.
Awesome. And so that kind of goes into one more question, actually. Um, a lot of people will do the same exercise, whether it's, cycling or yoga. And yes, they're not being sedentary and they're moving and they're moving their body, but sometimes we get into like a routine of exercising with the same exercises or the one thing that we really love. And so tell me about that, if somebody's like, I love yoga, and then they end up doing it every single day or 5 days a week and nothing else.
Right.
And so what's your thoughts around, just doing the same, activity?
Sure. Well, so our bodies are pretty incredible. Our mind is pretty incredible. And so our bodies find the most efficient way to get through the exercise. So just because you walk every day, right, or you do the same exercise, you're not going to see the same results. So you got to trick your body and you got to increase the intensity. So if you're someone that really loves to walk, I encourage you, like I said before, 2 days, make it more of an interval type, find a hillier walking spot just to increase the intensity if you're looking for results, right? Um, yoga is fantastic. It builds lean muscle. It helps your flexibility, and it's a really great mental exercise for mental health or just relaxation. But we do, it's not cardiovascular or cardiovascular enough to really nourish your heart and lungs. So you got to find some sort of cardiovascular exercise if that's what, if you're looking for a well-rounded plan. And you gotta hit the weights too. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's worth all of those benefits.
It's consistency, right? Consistency.
Yes, it is. It is consistency with setbacks and fallbacks in life, right? That's why you have to give yourself grace and get right back on when you're able.
Never a straight line, right?
It's
There's a
never
lot of
straight.
zigzagging.
No,
As long as
no.
you're going up, right? Um, okay, so one question from the audience. I'm in the process of losing weight. Should the protein calculation be to the weight I choose to be or by current weight or something in between? Have about 70 more pounds to lose.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. What a great goal. Yeah, so I would play with the protein, right? What I would do, I would do based on the weight that you are because you need to nourish your body, right? And then maybe just play with it. If you're not seeing results, maybe like decrease it a little bit. But for you, I would definitely, to help with that last 70 pounds, let's increase your intensity because I'm sure you've gotten on a really nice routine and you're consistent. So let's increase your intensity and really make sure you nourish your body after those hard, intense workouts.
Okay, I'm going to add one more question. So I have a
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
conversation.
no,
Okay,
absolutely.
um, really quick is if with the women in the audience, we're all very busy and we're always trying to adjust and balance timing with working out. Is it better would you say, which is better, 30 minutes of exercise daily or 1 hour every 3 days or so?
I know. I saw that question. That's a really good question. Um, I strongly think that a daily routine is better not only for your overall physical goals, but your mental health, right? Um, Kind of goes beyond that. And it keeps you in this habit. It keeps you like that 30 minutes or that 45 minutes is like part of who you are, right? It's like, do we brush our teeth really, really well once every 3 days, right? If you can think about it like that,
Yeah,
right? And I get
yeah.
it. Now, if you
Lifestyle.
It's yeah, like I make it part of who I am, right? Now, what you could do, some of you, depending on your careers or your lifestyle during the week, maybe your weekend is when you really do those intense,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Those intense ones or those long ones. Um, but yeah, it's super individual, but I would really go for the
Yeah.
daily routine. But
And
if
I
you
guess,
can't, the 1 hour is better, right? It's
yeah.
better.
And I guess if we change the perspective on fitness and just like you brought up, brushing your teeth every day, right? Maybe we can change the perspective on fitness hygiene instead and call it fitness hygiene, right? And
Right.
that's like something that you just have
Yeah,
to
I
do.
love
It's
that.
hygiene, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Different
No.
perspective, and it's like how you
And
want to.
right. And I'm the one that's always trying to find ways, right? There are some days that I've literally had meetings or presentations, you know, 6 hours straight. And so I'm the person that while the dinner is cooking, I'm doing squats and doing push-ups and you just got to find those little snacks, those workout snacks too, and those really help. Those will help with muscle build and calorie burn, but they may not help with like if your goal is to run a marathon, right? Or something that's like, or the bodybuilding or those competition type things. That's a whole different training process. But finding those little snacks throughout your day can really help too.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so we're just a little bit over time, but go ahead, Lauren. Anything you want to add or share with the audience? I know you have your wellness journal, your
Yeah.
Elevate Wellness Journal. I dropped the link in the chat. Tomorrow, I will send an email out to all attendees with the link and a way to get in touch with Lauren. I bought about 15 of those of your journals so I can share it with my friends. I give it to them as gifts. It's one of those gifts that keeps on giving for life, right? And builds habit. And it's actually an excellent journal where it does give you, a sustained way of building habits and staying healthy. And not never do you ask us to step on a scale, right?
Yeah.
So
No, there's no place to put your weight. But
exactly.
what I really love about this journal is um there are areas it clearly shows when you open up the tracking page
Hmm.
and you color in. So basically it's a coloring book. I forgot to mention. So you have to get, your pencil crayons, which is super fun, but you color in all your progress. And then at the end of the week, you just kind of look at it and you're like, okay, so areas that I need to work on, I don't take my vitamins every day, or I am not getting the sleep that I really should need. It's just a really great recap. It's never to shame anyone. It's just to show, and you know what? You may not be interested in mapping out your exercise. So
Hmm.
maybe you're about to have surgery and you can't exercise for 4 weeks. Well, you still can map out your nutrition, your fruits
Hmm.
and vegetables, your meditation, your mindfulness, all the other self-care stuff.
Right.
And I guess if I wanted to add anything, on top of consistency, I think grace and really learning to love the place that you're in, is a really great mindset, but also knowing that it takes more work, right? Like every 10 years to stay, how you that strength and conditioning and fitness person that you want to be, it takes a lot of work. You just have to take, every 5 years, just take that effort up just a little bit. But I think as more as we age, we become more confident in the decisions we make. We get better at setting more boundaries. So I think there's opportunity there for, making sure that you take care of yourself before you are able to take care of others.
And
So.
always progress, right? It's progress either way. Every step that you take,
Progress. Yeah.
progress, right?
Yep. And those small little increments, right? Those small little wins lead up to like long, there's so much research. And I didn't really talk about habit stacking, but there's a really great book around habit stacking and habit forming where if you're someone that's like, I don't have any time to move, like how do you people exercise? If you start by like every day I have my coffee, if that's a habit that you do every day at 6 a.m., right? You have your cup of coffee. I challenge you to add to that. So after you have your cup of coffee, then you're going to do a 15-minute, fun little workout, right? You can find it on YouTube or whatever. And then you start your day. And so you form that becomes, right, your habit stacking. So every time you have your coffee, then you brush your teeth, then you do your 15-minute workout, so I've tried that. We do that a lot with UW, our University of Washington participants and employees, and people are really starting to see results. So those little habits, those small habits can make lasting impact. Same with nutrition too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. We really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
sharing your knowledge and your tips and just helping, women understand their body during this, this evolution and this modern day, all the options and choices we have as well, as opposed to back then when it was just running or aerobics or something, right?
Right.
It's a different world we're in, and we're just learning new things, we're adjusting to new things, and then all the choices and options and information we have. This is where, someone like yourself, like an expert or a coach or, you know, can help really guide us and help us understand what's right for us at this point. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
so wonderful, wonderful. Thank you
No
so much, Lauren. Thank you everyone for joining. In 2 weeks, I have another webinar with Jessica Fernandez Cruz and Dr. Mari Matrani, and we will be talking about fertility and the process of fertility preservation, i.e., freezing your eggs. Right. And so we're going to talk about that journey and the feelings around it, and then the science and research around it for our bodies. And so we're going to give you guys a lot of information, choices, and education around it so that you can make the decisions and have your friends, anybody, your children, anyone that you know, that's, it's a different time in our modern time. And there we have a lot of ways to think about fertility. And that's information I want to share next in our next webinar. So keep an eye out for that information. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Lauren.
See you.